Gee, we've read a lot and heard a lot about industries and businesses being severely impacted by the COVID pandemic, haven't we? But there's one area that's been sadly overlooked, and it's a severe impact for this particular area. It's the disability sector, and more importantly, those of us that depend on daily support and help just to get through our lives. Now, during the pandemic and the lockdown, over 100,000 were disconnected from disability services. That's a big number, isn't it? Staggering. And there are still problems for many accessing the NDIS prior to even that. Now, Kay Hamilton is a Brisbane mum, and she's guardian to 3 kids on the NDIS. She's got 20 years of experience in this sector. Kay, thanks for having a chat. How hard has it been for you personally during COVID with the boys?
Yeah, during COVID, it was quite distressing due to the change of routine. So obviously having 3 boys on the ASD spectrum routine is quite an integral part of how they operate. So to just go from a normal day to nothing caused a lot of distress, and the balance was shifted in our family as a result.
What's the biggest impact on similar families of COVID, on people with a disability accessing services and providers?
Yeah, so I guess the biggest impact is that a lot of providers were forced to shut, such as day programs. We had residential facilities which weren't allowed to have visitors. Moving to a telehealth platform, not every participant was able to undergo therapies with that telehealth because they may have not had the adequate technology. So I guess that would be the biggest impact that comes to mind for a lot of people, including myself.
Well, hats off to you. I've got 4 boys and one's on the NDIS, but 3 boys at any time's a handful, so especially with higher needs. Hey, listen, what changes did you have to make in your home and with the boys, and what stress did it place on the fellas?
Look, it placed an awful lot of stress because we went from being quite independent in our own way to all operating under the one roof. So the changes were largely around the technology, allowing them to have access to the technology that they needed, unsupervised by large, because I had to work from home as well. And then the stress levels, it was just, you're bringing all of their energy into the house and trying to manage that as well as still function as a family unit. But I don't believe that I was alone when you look at the statistics of how the industry was impacted and the result of that with funding remaining unused.
Well, that's my next question. What are the numbers? How many need help but don't know how to get it?
Yeah, so it's essentially 18% of Australians, so that's sort of 1 in 4, are living with a disability, and 1 in 10 are accessing NDIS for support. And I think that this is due to, the lack of awareness, understanding, and just on how to access the scheme, because it is quite, a lengthy process. And if you don't have a lot of support around you, it's very easy to become overwhelmed quite quickly.
Yeah, so that's obviously why a lot of funding is untouched. I know my wife spent a lot of time learning how to navigate the system, and it took a long time, but it's definitely worth it. So you really do have to get some help and do that, don't you? Navigate and sort of form relationships, which makes it easier.
That's exactly right. You need to be quite a strong personality and have quite a strong, personality.
Well, we're just losing you on the phone there, I think, Kay. Not sure if we've still got you. No, we may not have Kay. Well, it seems to have dropped out, but she was explaining about the NDIS and how difficult it is to access. There's plenty of support out there, plenty of support available, but from experience, it really is a matter of knowing what you want, and you have to have your suppliers, your registered. So you've got to be registered to get the NDIS funding. It's a multi-layered system, and I think we've got Kay back now. Yep. Your phone just dropped out, so you were talking about how much easier it makes it if you have a strong personality. I'll let you go.
Yeah, absolutely. So, with 1 in 6 people struggling to access the NDIS, you do need to have a very good advocate in your corner to help you, not only to do the access form, but to make sure that you're getting the correct funding that you need. to get through that plan, and then also knowing how to use it as well.
Are there many out there, some of the support services, any gouging going on, taking advantage perhaps, sort of supplying materials to NDIS?
Yeah. Look, I wouldn't like to say that it's gouging and things like that, but I think that choosing the right provider is quite tough, especially when you're trying to provide, I guess, find a provider that aligns their values with your values as a family. The two aren't always the same, so sometimes you do have to go through a couple of poor experiences to be able to understand what you need. But I guess where I struggle is I see providers sort of locking participants and their guardians into a contract type situation where it's actually not the case at all. NDIS is all about choice and control for the participant.
All right. Before we let you go, what's your best advice? Because you've got 20 years' experience in the Cape. But your best advice for someone who's out there that needs an advocate or wants to get registered and make sure that they have it all lined up. Where do they go for help?
Yep, so I would highly recommend coming along to the Disability Service Provider and Participant Expo, which is on in 2021, on the 30th of April to the 1st of May. It is going to be wall-to-wall providers where you can ask all of those hard-hitting questions and essentially just fact-find. Have your list of questions. No question's a silly question. You simply need to fact-find to get the answers that resonate with each individual to know that it's going to be viable for your family.
Brilliant. Appreciate you giving us your time today.